Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
All right. Welcome back.
Misfit Nation. The Misfit Nation Show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation Show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
The ToosDay Crue is here, hosted by Stephen LaMonica and Jake Collin. It is a Misfit Nation production that brings powerful stories of grit, resilience, and leadership to life. Stephen is a business leader and YouTube consigliere, ensures the show runs smoothly, providing real-time feedback and maintaining discipline during live broadcasts. Jake, a 25-year Army veteran and former EOD tech. We call him Hurt Locker. We call him Lacey. Offers deep insights from his extensive service, which includes multiple combat deployments and VIP missions around the globe. Together, they welcome guests from diverse backgrounds to share their journeys, inspiring listeners with stories of overcoming adversity and leading with purpose. Whether you're tuning in for the insightful discussions or to enjoy Stephen's passion for NASCAR or Jake's anecdotes from his farm in Kentucky, the ToosDay Crue delivers a unique blend of entertainment and inspiration every week. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ToosDay Crue! All right. It's time! As you know, it's Tuesday. It's a big day for the boys. It's a big day for the Misfit Nation. We've come a long way in our time, but tonight is very special. But first, we shall pause, as we must pay homage to another fallen officer, Sergeant Grant Candies, St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office, Louisiana, and the watch Sunday, March 23rd, 2025. He was also a USMC veteran. So keep his family, his friends, his peers, his USMC brothers and sisters in your thoughts and prayers as they go through this tough time. As this is Women's History Month, I want to highlight one close to home here. Petty Officer 2nd Class Olivia Cutting, proudly serving as a steel worker in the Navy with Navy Construction Group 2. She just re-enlisted yesterday, so she's heading towards that lifer. Olivia, we love you. Thanks for all you do. Congratulations. And now, it's cheers for us. Misfit Nation. The boys are back, but wait,
This is not any other show. This is our 500th episode of the show. What a journey. What an awesome ride. Thanks to each and every one of you in the Misfit Nation for being part of it. This ride and the next 500 are just as awesome. Now, get in your race chair. Reach up behind your head. Pull down those shoulder straps as Cagney and Lacey take this away. Boys, let's make some noise. It's time for the ToosDay Crue.
Happy
Welcome
500.
to Show 500, Misfit.
And it's almost our anniversary, a whole year.
Hey,
Whole
it
year
is
doing this
that.
on Tuesdays.
It is that. It is almost our anniversary. How you doing
it's
this
just-
fine evening, Stephen?
I'm good. It's like party after party here.
It is. It is. Mrs. Holland just made me a big old 6-egg omelet, and I wolfed that down right before I got on here. So my
Man,
belly's full.
That's like $1,000 worth of eggs.
Got me a glass of sweet tea. That's not $1,000 worth of eggs at my house. We just call it Tuesday. Oh, hey, man. First of all, I want to thank our producer and the CEO of the Misfit Nation for bestowing this honor upon us to let us do the 500th show. He's been here from the beginning, and it's just to see how far it's come. I'm amazed, and I'm proud to be a part of this show, and I just want to thank him for that.
Went from him sitting in his Jeep talking to people
Yes.
to this. And here we
Yes.
are, this magnificent show.
I remember when he bought his first studio board, he brought it on the road with us, and he goes, "Hey, man, come here and look at this. This button does this. This button does this." And now he's got it all down, knows exactly what everything's doing. And we've had some great guests over those 500. But, hey, we've got a great one tonight, too.
Yes, we do.
We have Susan Combs. She was raised in a military family with her father serving in 3 branches of the armed services. I was barely able to serve in one and stay in. And she was instilled with a strong service ethos from an early age, and her dedication to her service it transcends her personal life, as evidenced in her active involvement in various philanthropic endeavors. And we will let her go over all that. I'm not going to go too far into it. She did write a book. She wrote a book called Pancakes for Roger. And it was to basically tell you how to slay dragons. It was let me get it up here again. I should have memorized a little better, but it was a mentorship guide on how to slay dragons.
It's over his eggs. You're forgetting those.
She has founded the company. She's the founder of Pancakes for Roger. I'm going to let her tell how that story got started. But hailing all the way from New Hampshire, Susan Combs.
Hey, how are you guys doing? Thanks for having me on your 500th show. It's super exciting for me.
Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, and I know we were talking. It's almost bedtime for some of us. So
Yes.
Some of us have 6 eggs. Some of us need to go to bed.
Hey, yes, I tell you what, that we usually get about 60, 70 eggs a day. So eating 6 of them.
How many chicken you got?
About 80.
Wow.
I never get any eggs from him.
I know. You could barter with those eggs pretty well now.
Oh, we do.
I will tell you. So my husband's a city boy. I mean, I live in New Hampshire now. I only moved to New Hampshire a few months ago. I was in New York City for almost 24 years, and before that, I mean, I was in Missouri. And when my husband and I moved to Queens, it was summertime, and we were walking down the street, and my husband's like, "What is that smell?" And I said, "It smells like a chicken coop." And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's kind of what they smell like." And it was a live chicken store like in Queens. I was like, I knew that smell. But my husband from Philly did not.
Yeah, we raise both egg chickens and meat chickens.
Fryers. Yeah.
And so Yeah, it gets pretty ripe around here, depending on which way the wind's blowing. But we eat good.
Yeah.
And Stephen, when you come down to visit, I'll give you all the eggs you want.
Oh, you're so nice. And I'll just juggle them and hold on to them.
And I might even give you some of the other little things we make here on the farm.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
That sounds good.
I know that you're fond of.
Yes. But we can't talk about that here.
Oh, no, we cannot. We cannot. So, Susan, we told a little bit. We mentioned your book.
Yep.
That you grew up in a military family. First of all, what 3 services was your father in?
So, he was a Marine, and I will tell you, once a Marine, always a Marine, right? And so he was a combat helicopter pilot in the Marine Corps. He flew CH-46s. He was a Purple Fox. And so after he got out of the Marine Corps, he was Army, because the Army had the helicopters. So he flew for the Army for a little bit. And then ultimately he was Air Force. So he retired as a Major General in the Air Force and served for 39 years and 4 months.
Okay. So he never was one of those Navy Uber drivers.
Well, so I will tell you, the reason my dad was a helicopter pilot is because he could not swim. And he always said to me, he said, and I don't know if it's still that way now, but he said back then, he said, if you wanted to be a pilot and he said, you want to fly airplanes and you're a Marine, you had to go through Navy flight school. And he said, I couldn't swim, and you have to know how to swim if you're Navy. And he was just like, but if you flew helicopters, you went to Army flight school and you didn't have to know how to swim. So that was the whole reason that he was a helicopter pilot instead of an airplane pilot.
Good deal. So explain to us Pancakes for Roger.
Sure. So Pancakes for Roger. Yeah. So Pancakes for Roger ultimately is a nonprofit that supports veterans that are helping them with different issues that they have and in their communities and in their lives. But it actually started from a simple request from my father. My father was diagnosed with Agent Orange related throat cancer in 2008. And we had 10 relatively good years. One of those things you didn't know how good they were until they were gone type of thing. And then the last year of his life, he did relapse twice. And the second time he relapsed, we knew that was pretty much it. And so I was fortunate enough to basically move back from New York City to Missouri to help care for my dad when he was sick. And because my father and I we were 2 type A people in our family. And we just had a cadence. We thought very much the same. Logic always worked with my dad, and I'm a very logical person. And so I could just explain things to him, and he'd tell everybody else no. And I'd be like, look, we need to do this because X. And he's like, okay, got it. And then we'd do it. But we always had a cadence. Every single morning I'd get up, I'd check on him. If he was good, I'd go to the gym. I'd come back home. I would check on him again. If he was good, I'd go get cleaned up for the day and then get him, rallied around. And we were fortunate enough to have hospice care at home when his clock was winding down. And so one particular morning went through that whole song and dance. And then ultimately when I came to get him out of his hospital bed, he wasn't in it. And my parents' house, the rooms just went around in a circle. So I just went from room to room until I ultimately landed in the kitchen. And my dad was sitting there at the table, and he had a placemat, and he had set the table. And I looked at my dad and I said, what are you doing? And he said, well, I want pancakes for breakfast. In the last year of my dad's life, he had to have another additional surgery, which resulted in him having a feeding tube. And so his nutrition was all by feeding tube. And he was also on oxygen towards the end too. And this is a guy that he had never asked for anything for a year. And I looked at him, I said, Dad, there's nothing more that I want to give you than pancakes for breakfast. But I'm like, we're on hospice here. We have a DNR. I said, if I give you pancakes and you choke, I said, we're probably done here. And I don't think we're quite ready to be done. And he said, oh yes, I can. Matt said I could. And Matt's my brother. And he's a nurse, and he wasn't there that morning. So I knew we were dealing with some oxygen deprivation, so some confusion. And I looked at him and I said, well, let me see what I can do. And so he always wanted his tube feeding formula heated up for 14 seconds. He was so so specific about that. I can't imagine a general being so very specific, can you? And, I heated his tube feeding formula up for 14 seconds, and I went and I put the little pitcher on the table, and he said, "What's that?" And I said, "That's your syrup." And so his oxygen levels had kind of started rallying around. He smiled and he kind of nodded and understood what I meant. And a few short weeks later, my father would ultimately pass away. And I took one day off work. I mean, I'm sure you have plenty of listeners and watchers that have been caregivers and understand that when that person passes, you kind of lose your purpose for a minute. And it takes a second to get your feet back under you. And so I took, we planned the Missouri funeral. My father's ultimately buried at Arlington, had a big service there, but we needed that Missouri service for some closure because Arlington, I'm not, I'm sure some of your listeners probably know that I'm in 40 services a day at Arlington right now. And so there's a pretty big wait. And so we had a year and a month long wait before he was buried there. And so after we had planned the Missouri service, I came back to New York for a week and I took one day off of work because I just needed to shut it all out and say, if I wanted to call somebody, I could call somebody. If I wanted to respond to something, I could, but I wanted to give myself a little bit of grace. And my husband said, "Why don't we go have some pancakes for your dad?" And it was such a good idea. And, I had pancakes at the Bel Air Diner in Queens, New York, and my husband snapped a picture and I told the story that I told you guys. And I said, all of our lives can change in the blink of an eye. And every single one of us has something to be grateful for today. And if you're so inclined, why don't you have some pancakes for Roger and remember all the good things in your life? And it was just me talking. It was just me sharing some of my heart, some of my sorrow. It wasn't supposed to go anywhere. But then people started having pancakes and they started taking pictures and they started sending them to me and saying, "I can't think about, military service or the service your father did for our country and our community without having pancakes." And so it's my family, and even with my father, it's like, where's the lesson? And so when something bad happens, there's always a lesson that can be learned. And so I was like, where's the lesson here? And I just, my father was he was a great man and he had helped so many people. And I was like, there's got to be something more here. And so we started, my father's birthday was February 22nd. So what we started doing is setting aside the month of February and said, for every pancake loving picture we get on social media, tagging our accounts or using the hashtag Pancakes for Roger, we'll make a donation to a veterans legal clinic, the University of Missouri School of Law Veterans Clinic, that provides free legal services for veterans and their families navigating the VA claims and appeals process, discharge upgrades, and a lot of other things, all free of service to veterans. You don't even have to be from Missouri. You don't have to have gone to school there. You just have to find them. And if they can help you, they'll help you. And so, we started it that way. And like the first year we got I think we got 100 pictures and we were thrilled. And so we just finished our 7th year of doing the pancake picture campaign in the month of February. And we had set a goal of 1,000. And we ended up with 1,142. We got all 50 states, Washington, D.C., 6 continents. Antarctica broke my heart this year because I had gotten in the past 2 years, and we got 25 additional countries. And we were able to make the largest donation. It was over $13,000 that we made to the University of Missouri Veterans Clinic.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's heartwarming. And so now it's like, yes, I wrote a book about it. Like I wrote a book that part of the proceeds go to the Veterans Clinic in perpetuity. And, and because I've also been raised that if you get a good piece of advice, it's your duty to share it with somebody else. And my dad gave a lot of great advice. And so the book is separated. I mean, I talk very plainly. It's separated into self-love, family, and career. And I didn't realize how many of the lessons were military based until all these military guys started reading it. And they're like, "Oh, I learned this at boot camp. Oh, I know this. I remember hearing it from my flight instructor." So that's kind of cool when you think about it. And, so the book came out on my dad's birthday in 2022. And then the end of 2023, I launched an official nonprofit because again, I was like, there's got to be more that we can do. And so right now, we're working on building an endowment so we can also start providing grants for veterans that are wanting to do different projects. but we're working closely in tandem with other veteran nonprofits because we know we can make the biggest impact that way right now. So it's just like, there's an organization in South Carolina. I feel like I got to give them a shout out called Helping Vets. And I don't know if you guys have heard about them, but man, it's such a brilliant organization that they just do such cool things. And all it is exactly what it's named for, Vets Helping Vets. And so I was down there for a pancake breakfast in February, and they supported us. We had almost 100 vets at that pancake breakfast, and they get together on a weekly basis, and they have like donuts and coffee. And then sometimes they'll have, like, we had pancakes when I was there, and they had a whole bunch of guys there. But literally they'll be like, what's the old business? And there's a guy that stood up and said, like, you know what? I really appreciate the deck you guys built for me. He was like, with a ramp. It was on his, attached to his trailer. He was kind of homebound because he didn't have, the access to be able to get in and out. And you guys know as well as I do, VA only moves so fast. And so, but these guys were like, hey, he needs a ramp. And then 7 guys raised their hands. They showed up on an afternoon. They built a freaking deck. And then I was literally there on a Thursday. And they were like, what's new business? And they were like, oh, Joe is just beside himself because his flagpole has been broken for 2 years. And he said he really needs some help getting that going. And so one vet's like, well, I got concrete. One guy's like, I got a post hole digger. I swear to God, I was there on a Thursday. I checked their Facebook page on a Friday. Joe had his flagpole. I mean, it's so cool to just go around the country and meet all these guys and gals that are doing such great work. And that we can just be a small part of it it's very heartwarming for me.
And all that boils down. And I mean, if people would just do this in their everyday lives, most of it just boils down to being neighborly.
Yeah. Being a good person. That's it. And and it's just like, but there's a lot of assholes out there,
Oh yeah, that's true. Yes, there are.
But it's just cool. But then, since we are an official nonprofit, we're happy to do events throughout the year. So we have places that are just like, hey, can we do a Pancakes for Roger Day on Flag Day? And so we have a lady out in Washington State, or excuse me, Oregon State, that is going to be putting together a pancake breakfast there. We had a pancake chain that's in Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee called Stacks. And so they did Pancakes for Roger Day at each one of their location. So it's just like, so they encourage people to have pancakes, take pictures, because in February, I mean, do we want money? Absolutely. We're a nonprofit, but like February is about like community, talking to each other, talking about veteran service, talking about how we can help, each other out. And so people were just highlighting it, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun this year.
That's fantastic.
Awesome. Y'all doing great things. I love to see organizations giving money to good causes. And especially since, a lot of these bigger organizations you see, while I agree that the people running it do need a stipend or pay to do it, I don't think that an organizer or somebody that's running a nonprofit needs a 7-figure salary.
No.
I mean,
no, I agree with you.
That's just me, though.
Yeah. But see, the thing I think about too is like, the organizations that we've intentionally partnered with as we're building our endowment before we can do our own, significant projects, they're smaller. And so it's just like, because, we know that, like, for example, when I was down there, for the Breakfast for Vets Helping Vets, I personally wrote a check for $1,000 to those guys. Because I wanted to help support them. I mean, they were shocked I did it because they had just given Pancakes for Roger a check for $1,000. I'm like, no, this is Susan Combs' account. This is a Pancakes for Roger account. But it was just like by supporting them, because they're doing all these construction projects, because they're not going to wait on the VA. They're also doing transportation. So, for example, they'll do like Uber rides. If, say, a vet needs to go to a doctor's appointment, they call basically the day before. They schedule an Uber to come pick them up, take them to the doctor's appointment, and then take them home. So it's just like those little things, like you said, just being neighborly that, a lot of people just miss the mark, I think, these days.
Yeah, we got a few folks. There's a lot of retired veterans around here where I live, and lot of old people in general. And there's a couple groups that go out. They'll cut grass, and then generally either a veterans, the VFW will take care of that, or a local church or whoever. That's who pays for getting the grass cut. And then if they're older and infirm, they usually get it cut for a discount. So it really, really works out good.
Yeah. Well, and we've, since moving to New Hampshire, I mean, we live in a very small town. I mean, our town is about 11,000 people, and the village that we're closest to is about 600 people. And, I've also gotten on the list for like the American Legion, like the local posts here. And they've let me know when there's like a veteran funeral of somebody that doesn't have any family. And so it's just like we've been able to go and support that way. And it's just, like those little small things that it's just like, I grew up with such pride for this country and such pride for the military. I mean, I know not everything's perfect. I mean, my dad would have been the first one to tell you that, but there's always good that you can find. And there's always ways to support people in small, impactful ways too.
Yes. Okay, this is from Mento 56. Susan, your father's simple request for pancakes turned into a movement. What's one unexpected lesson you've learned from launching Pancakes for Roger? Thank you for that question, Mentos 56.
Oh, I will tell you, I mean, I own 4 companies, and I started my first company at 26. And I will tell you that probably the biggest lesson, and I've been on boards of nonprofits and things like that, it is far different and far more stressful to have a nonprofit than it is to have a corporation. And the reason I say that is because the money we raise isn't my money. It's money for the veterans. Mm-hmm. And there is such, you have to have stewardship. You have a fiduciary responsibility, and it's far different where like from, one of my companies, I'll spend money on something I won't even think twice. But anything that Pancakes for Roger has to purchase, it's like, we have to make sure that we're doing our due diligence, getting the best price possible. And it's one of those things that I was like, I'm good at making money. I can figure this out. But it's just, it's a different mindset. It's a very much a different mindset when it's nonprofit versus for-profit. So I think that's one of my biggest lessons.
Okay.
Next question. At Vets and Pods, your book, The Pancakes for Roger, is all about mentoring and resilience. What's the biggest dragon you've had to slay in your own life? Thank you for that question, Vets and Pods.
I'm pretty open about it, but I've actually, I've been sober almost 23 years. So that's probably thank you. That's probably one of my biggest dragons that I slayed I figured it out at a young age, and I was very fortunate enough to figure that out at a young age. Doesn't mean it's always easy. But I would say that's probably one of my biggest dragons that I slayed. I also think when I started my first company at 26, I didn't anticipate the loneliness factor of working from home and going from a hustling and bustling office to going to a company of one. And so that's one of the things that I had intentionally have to put myself out there and make myself get dressed every morning and go out and meet with other people just to get out of my head a little bit too.
So you're saying working at home, you don't have to get dressed?
I will tell you. So I should stand up. I am fully dressed. I promise you that. But
Jake isn't.
Hey. Jake has pants on this evening because Jake has other things to do when he leaves the show.
Oh, okay. That's something new then.
So I will say, like, with COVID and everything like that in New York, we were shut down longer than anybody, right? And so my whole thing with my staff is I said, you got to put shoes on every day. I was like, there is a mind shift switch when you put shoes on because you feel like you're suiting up and showing up. I know there's people that are like, oh, they don't wear shoes in the house, but that was one of my rules with the staff is I was like, you gotta get dressed. You don't have to like put all the makeup on and get all fancy, but I was like, you need to put clothes on. And I was like, you need to put shoes on. So that seemed to work for us.
I got a question that I just, what was it like being the youngest ever national president of the Women's Insurance and Financial Services?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you. So I have a father that raised me. He raised me right, but it's just like I was taught to listen to my gut. Like it's just like because I have a good gut. Not everybody has a good gut. Because if you don't have a good gut, don't listen to your gut, listen to your friends. But one of my things was when I am going to do something that will impact other people. It's one thing if it's just like, hey, I'm going to go have a cookie because I want a cookie, right? It only affects me. But I will tell you, when I was asked to move through the chairs and ultimately become the national president of WIFS, or Women Insurance and Financial Services, I stressed about that one. And so the one thing I did is I had meetings with the last 7 national presidents.
Okay.
And I wanted to fully understand what that looked like. Because again, it was a non-paid position and I knew I was going to be away from my company, away from my family a lot. And I was going to be traveling a bunch. And I wanted to know what that impact and what that truly looked like. And I also wanted to know what it did for them personally, like what it meant to them. Because I will tell you, yes, I was the youngest national president. I had women that were old enough to be my mother. And so I worried about getting people's respect. And instead of like, hey, kid, what are you trying to sell me? Type of thing. And so that was one of the things that I really did my homework. I talked to my mentors. I talked to people that had been on boards. And then I also set up basically my own advisory board. So I had I had 2 people that were national presidents of other insurance organizations. And I had a friend, colleague that had also been a New York City president of a large insurance organization. And I would have, and then also somebody that was 2 past presidents. And so I would have monthly calls with each of them. And just to kind of be a temperature check sometimes on things. And the other 2 women that were national presidents the same time I was, like we were dealing with the same things. And so that's when I learned the value of having the peer-to-peer mentor. I think a lot of times people think of like, oh, when you have a mentor, they have to be senior than you. They have to have all this experience and stuff like that. But man, those peer-to-peer, you can't put a price tag on that. I mean, some of my best friends, 2 of my best friends, one's a senator in Wisconsin now. One owns a successful financial planning business in Wisconsin. And we all became such close friends because we were peer-to-peer mentors, because we had that shared connection of our business. But then, they're both, I'll get yelled at if I say they're too much older than me. They're like 10 years older than me. But it was just great to have that connection. And then, we do a girls' weekend every single year. We didn't last year because, the one that became senator had a lot on her plate. So, we gave her some grace, but we were like, okay, we're going to get back on it next year after you're like no longer a junior person.
And I think a good thing with those, especially a peer-to-peer type relationship with mentorship, is if everybody is good friends, trusts one another, you can tell the good with the bad, and there's no hard feelings. There's not going to, if I tell one of my peers something, negative, it's not because I want to break them down. It's because I want them to realize what they're doing and ultimately help them succeed. And that's why I think those relationships like that are important.
Amazing. Yeah, very much so.
Got another question here from.
Yes, we do. Right here. At Start Over One, you started Combs and Company at just 26.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for young entrepreneurs navigating challenges in male-dominated industries? Thank you for that question, Start Over One.
Yeah, I've always been, you got to be smart enough to know what you know and smarter enough to know what you don't know. And, so I've always surrounded myself by people that knew more than I knew in different areas. And my ego is not big enough that I can't be told like, Susan, you're wrong. Like, hey, there's a better way type of thing. I mean, that's the importance of bringing in those right people. I mean, because at 26, I mean, God, people are like, I mean, I will tell you, I lied about my age until I hit 30. You know, I have a lot of gray. I started going gray at 14. So I could lie about my age, and then I hit 30, and then I started telling the truth about it. But, you know, I mean, like I mentioned before, the loneliness factor was what I didn't anticipate. But, you know, the insurance industry, it's definitely getting better. But when I got into it, it was 14% women. And so it was a lot of, hey, honey, what are you trying to sell me? Or people were so nice, they keep having you come back because they didn't want to hurt your feelings. And I was always like, give me a no, don't give me a maybe. I'm okay. Okay with the no. But you know, surrounding yourself by the right person. And then also too, like you make the rules. But the thing is, like, you train people how to treat you. I mean, I was talking to somebody about that today, and I tell anybody that I mentor or anybody that comes onto my team, you know, if you respond to an email at 9:00 at night, that client is always going to, expect you to respond at 9:00 at night. And you know, I don't expect that. I don't expect my staff to respond to people at 9:00 at night. And, you know, there's always exceptions. I mean, I go to the West Coast a lot for work. And so I know that sometimes my hours are off. So I always preface it. Like if I'm responding to a New York email and I'm in California and I know it's 9:00 in New York, the first thing I'll say is, hey, I said, I'm on the West Coast for work. I'm catching up. I apologize for the late email, but I wanted you to have it in your inbox when you came in tomorrow. So it's like managing those expectations. But, you know, and in New York, it's like sometimes people think that if they yell at you and you scream at you, that it gets results. And
that's not how it works.
Yeah, you're in Jersey.
Yeah.
My whole thing is like 3 strikes and you're out. And I stay pretty firm to that. So it's just like, you know, you're allowed to be a bad day. We will give you the benefit of the doubt. I mean, just in my office. And if, say, a client treats one of my people poorly a second time, then I address it. And if it happens a third time, we're done with that client. You know, we've only had that happen. Well, we've threatened to have that happen a couple of times. And where I had to have a conversation, I was like, you made her cry. Like, come on. Like, and so it's just like sometimes when you call people out like that, they're like, holy shit, that is a person on the other end.
Yeah.
And
I work retail, and I've had to grab people by the neck and walk them out of buildings for disrespecting employees and stuff like that. Yeah. And they see me, I'm only 5'8", and I put my hand up on their neck and I walk them out the door. And they'll be like, what the hell is this guy doing? You don't disrespect my employees like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nuts. It's nuts. Yeah.
Okay, we got this popping up. This feed reading.
I don't know what an LZ is. I'm sorry.
That's a landing zone.
Oh, okay.
He was able to get the wounded out. Should be beyond it.
Yeah. So my dad. Yeah. So my dad. His civilian life. He was an attorney, and then he became the county prosecutor for I think 18 years, and then he was a civilian judge for 12 years. So to say I had a strict upbringing would be an understatement. I mean, we had a white glove test for our bedrooms and a demerit system growing up. I mean, so it was a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one of the cool things. The day the book came out, I actually had an interview on Veterans Radio, and the next morning I had an email in my inbox from a gentleman that said to me, he's like, oh my God. He said, I was listening to this interview when I was driving home. And he said, your dad was a giant. My dad was 5'8". He was not a giant. Right. And it's, I think 5'8" on a good day. It's just like, but I remember, so this gentleman, he actually ended up being, if I remember right, he was Colin Powell's XO in Desert Storm. And he told me, he said, I met your dad when I was a young pup going through flight school. And he said, your dad talked to our class. And he said, the thing your dad told us was there's rocks in the clouds. And he said, when you're flying, he said, you know, a lot of pilots will tell you, like a lot of times you don't know what's in those clouds. And he's like, so you always have to anticipate and you always have to be prepared for anything that can happen. And he said, I will tell you that I attributed that to your father. And he said, I went on to become a flight instructor. And he said, the hundreds and thousands of pilots that I trained, he said, all got that advice from your dad. And so I thought that was so cool. And it just meant so much to me that he took the time to find me and send me an email. And it's like, we've had some connections back and forth since then. It's just, it's so heartwarming. I think that's so cool about the military community, that you never know where you're at, that you can't get connected that way.
Yeah. And it really is. There's a lot of us out here, but it is a very, very small community. And you can generally, if you want to contact someone, you can generally get a couple phone calls. You can usually figure out where somebody's at.
So when I was like 16, I was smart mouth. And I remember saying to my dad, I was like, well, I'll just run away. I mean, I remember him saying to me, he was like, do you think there's any place in this world that you could go that I wouldn't have somebody that could find you? And I was like, yeah. And I said, I guess I'll stay.
You okay, Jay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You looked like you were buffering for a second there.
Oh, no. I was looking over here.
People distracted, chatting you up.
See, now I get a little bit of, I've been around a lot of explosions, and Steven teases me because every now and then I buffer a little bit before I talk. Okay. No, I was just, Bernie Suma retired as a master sergeant from the Army and is a great American.
That's nice.
I was looking at this. I was looking at this next question over here addressed to us, Stephen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
From By Them Boobs. The Misfit Nation and the ToosDay Crue have become a force in storytelling. What's next for the show? Any big dreams or goals for the next 500 episodes?
No, just keep trucking on. Keep bringing in these great guests, talking to great people and learning things and having fun.
I can't believe you guys have done 500 shows in less than a year.
No, not us.
No,
the show altogether.
Not us.
We've been here for about 100 of those shows.
Gotcha. And then you guys are going to have your 1 year anniversary, right? Didn't you say?
Right. That'll be a 1 year anniversary. So that'll be like 100 shows altogether that we're there for year 4. My brother has done the bulk of them.
I think my goal, I think this weekend, I'm going to try to shoot a short from horseback. Just a little show introduction.
Oh.
See how that goes.
See, I look at liability for a living, so be careful. Don't fall off the horse.
Well, it's my horse, and it's so if I fall off, it's pretty much my fault.
You are getting up there in age, your hip. You got to watch. People your age, your hips up.
Stephen.
I appreciated that, Rich. That was good.
Oh.
You're at Life and Such.
Yeah.
You're an entrepreneur, author, speaker, and still find time to flip tires at CrossFit. How does fitness play a role in your mindset and success?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, like I was always an athlete. You grew up in a small town, you either do everything or you do nothing. And I grew up in a town of 986 people when I left in the northwest corner of Missouri. I graduated high school with 15 people. And I played rugby in college a little bit. Before I will tell you, because this is just a good dad story. My dad, don't break a hip. Yeah. No, I've had 2 back surgeries though. But so my dad, I remember I had a girl named Susan Brown lined up against me in rugby, and she said, I'm handing out lollipops and whoop ass, and I'm all out of lollipops. And she nailed me, and she broke my collarbone. And so I remember my dad was in town, and he picked me up for dinner, and I had a black eye. I had a cut above my eyebrow, and my arm was in a sling. And I was a senior in college, and I remember my dad saying to me, he's like, Susan, I love you. I love you a lot. But he's just like, you're going to be interviewing for jobs. And he said, who's going to hire you looking like a victim of domestic violence? And I was just like, so I was like, okay, I guess I'm done with rugby, Dad. So, but yeah, I mean, fitness is always, I mean, I'll tell you, my dad, until the last, 6 months of his life, he worked out. I mean, I had a great example because he had to pass PT tests. I mean, I was growing up. So my dad was always exercising, and he was a good example. And my dad was always out at the farm and everything. And we, that was something that, especially when he got sick, I think I always tell caregivers, you got to figure out a way to fill your cup in the morning, because you might have to give it all away all day long. And as long as you fill your cup and do something for yourself. And for me, that was working out, because it was 1 hour. I mean, I'll tell you, my small town gym, I would be the only one there. And it was just like, I could have some quiet, I could throw around some weights and stuff like that. And so that's just been something that has very much changed my life. Yeah. One of those, a 600-pound tire didn't love me back. And I blew out my back, and I had 2 back surgeries in a 13-month period, but it's great. It's fun. And I am back way better than ever. But that's, I mean, everybody's got to find their thing. I mean, maybe for you, it's reading. Maybe it's like, it's gardening. I mean, that's one of the things like in New Hampshire that I'm so excited about doing, is having like a garden. I mean, I grew up with a 1-acre garden that my dad and I used to do. And then we had one out at the farm that my grandmother did too for decades. And so I think you got to find that one thing. And so for me, like working out and doing CrossFit and strongman, strongman's the flipping tires and stuff like that is just a way for me to fill my cup and center me too.
Okay, well, Thank you at Life and Such for that question.
Yeah,
that's
a good
very damn good.
If you'd point out.
Got another question. If you could point out a reason the Misfit Nation has hit 500, what would it be?
It would be you asking these questions at Hair and Bombs.
Yeah.
Because if people weren't listening and people weren't paying attention, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
That and the hard work, the tenacity, the patience, the getting out there and getting guests and trying to get that Rich LaMonica does. He's what makes all this happen. I mean, Stephen, you admit it. Me and you just sit here on the screen and look pretty. Yeah. That's about all we do.
And talk about
if he wasn't here, we wouldn't even get these questions.
No, because he's the one running the question board. We owe it all to Rich, and he gets out there. He finds good, engaging guests, purposeful guests from all walks of life, and we got to keep things interesting. And
we have one coming up for you now.
I would say that's why we hit. That's why we are successful and have hit 500.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Susan, here we go.
Make me
happy. If your father could see the impact of Pancakes to Roger today, what do you think he'd be much proud of?
That gets me.
Thank you. Make me happy.
Yeah, make me sad. I will tell you. I mean. Oh, damn. I talk to my dad a lot, in my head. And because I think when I had such a close relationship with him, I know I can anticipate his answers. But I have a lot of, a lot of family and a lot of friends that remind me of how proud he would be. Because, and I mean, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, but it's like, I've said to people that I was like, God, I wish he was here to see all this. Just as an example, who my dad was. The day after my dad passed away, I went to the gym, and because I needed to get out of that house, and I needed to have just some time for me. And when I was walking back from the gym, I heard a clanging, and something just in me just said, Susan, look up. And I looked up, and the flagpole on the top of the post office in my small town had put the flag at half mast for my dad. And if that's not a testament to what somebody did for a community and for so many people, I don't know what is. And, you know, that selfless act alone, just, I think of that a lot. And it reminds me to keep going. And my dad was one of those guys that was good when nobody was watching. I mean, that, you know, that same day, my brother went to the post office to pick up the mail. And the postmaster told my brother, she said, you know, last year, she said, our air conditioning went out. And she said, your mom had been in here getting the mail. And she said she was gone about 10 minutes. And she said, the next thing we knew, your dad was down here with some fans and bottled water to make sure that we were okay. And it's just, we had never known that. We had never heard that story. I mean, there was all these stories that came out of things that he did, selfless things that he did, that he helped people. You know, I mean, this past Christmas before last, I took my nieces around to like some shut-ins and nursing home people. Like, we made Christmas cookies and we made ornaments and things like that, because I love giving the girls toys and stuff like that. But I want them to remember the spirit of Christmas and know that it's about doing things for other people too. And we took some cookies and an ornament to an old neighbor of ours that's at the nursing home. And he said to me, he's like, and he was a pilot too. And my dad always had a close relationship with him. And he said, I never saw your dad that he didn't palm me $20, you know, or give me $100, you know, just to make sure, because he knew he was limited on his income on Social Security and everything like that. And so it just, you know, so I'm trying to just keep his legacy alive and continue doing some good when nobody's watching, like he did, for sure.
That's an amazing story. And just when people, you know, find you and walk up to you and tell you their own special story about what they saw your father do or what your father did for them, that just, that's amazing. And got one more here from Bernie, that he was in trouble and your dad was the prosecutor, and he told Bernie, if you ship to the Army, this all goes away. And he joined the Army and it all went away.
Oh, how cool. Thank you for reaching out. That's just, that's so neat. That's so neat. Oh, my dad used to also tell people, like, he'd give them a warning, and he said, next time I see you, better bring your pajamas and a toothbrush. So Bernie, I'm glad you got a career out of it and didn't get shipped off with your pajamas and a toothbrush.
Yes. So, Susan, we have come to the time of the show where we ask our guests I ask the guests, Rich has got a little different way of doing it, but I ask the guests, what are 3 non-negotiables in your life every day? When you get up, 3 things that you have to do every day for your day to be complete.
Considered. I do fellowship of some kind.
Okay.
So it's just like I told you, I'm in recovery. So a lot of times I plug into a meeting, you know, on Zoom, just to get my head on straight. I usually work out and I brush my teeth and I make my bed. I make my bed every single day. I make my hotel bed, you know?
Okay.
So I'm one of those people. So I'm just like, I always put the do not disturb on. I'm like, I can clean my own room. I can make my own bed. I can.
I tell you what, I travel quite a bit. I make my own bed and take out my trash.
Yep.
And at home, I use my towel for more than one shower. I can do it while I'm on the road too.
Oh,
you know?
Well, I use it for a week. Yeah. Like, it's just like, I mean, yeah. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. We were taught that as kids because mom didn't want to spend all day, every day doing laundry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Susan, this has been a great interview. The website is pancakesforroger.org. The book is Pancakes for Roger, a mentorship guide for slaying dragons.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward.
A great chat.
It was. And I tell you what, I would have loved to met your father.
Oh, yeah, he was amazing. It just warms my heart that Bernie Summa was on and said some things. That was really cool.
Yeah. It's good when you get somebody that that a parent, that your parent has touched their lives in such a profound way. Well, Misfit Nation, this has been the 500th. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the great questions. Remember to like and subscribe. And
thank you, Susan, for hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
Giving us your story, even though it was a little emotional there, a little up and down. You made it through.
Good.
And remember, if you're out there, we love you. If you're feeling the darkness, hit 988, take option 1, because we want you here tomorrow too. Yeah. If you've been watching what's going on in the show, you've got our email too. Email me. Email Stephen. Give us a phone number. We'll talk to you. We'll listen to you. If that's all you need someone to listen to, we will listen, because tomorrow will not be a better place if you're not in it. With that being said, Misfit Nation, good evening, and we love you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Susan. Have a great night.
You too.
We're all soldiers, and you know what the price is going to be a soldier. Once the fighting starts, there's only winning or losing, living or dying. You know it when you signed up. If you didn't, you were fooling yourself. Combat, there is no Democrat, Republican, black, white. There's friend and enemy, and people dying.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.